What's going on, guys? It's your boy the Markham Knight here. Today's video is going to be all about WandaVision episode 8. Now, I am going to get into a recap, I'm going to get into my theories for episode 9, and then I'm going to give you my review for WandaVision as a whole, because there is only one episode left. I feel like I might know the direction that they're going in, but we'll see next episode too. But I'm going to give my review thus far. Now, for those of you who are worried about spoilers, I would suggest bookmarking this. Otherwise, let's get right into the recap. So this is a flashback episode. Now, flashback episode is basically that most of the episode takes place in the past and explains kind of what's happening. And the first thing we get to see is Agatha Harkness, and we get to see her backstory. And she is a witch, and this is set in Salem, Massachusetts, way back in the day. And her coven's trying to take her out, and they're using magic to do so. And she sucks their magic up and sucks them dry and becomes more powerful up because of it. And this kind of reminds me of the TV commercial that they had for Yo Magic, where the shark kind of sucks up the little boy's power, and he says, "I feed off your magic." And then we get to see modern day that Wanda has to go through her life because Agatha wants to figure out how she got all these powers and how she's this super powerful being. So we get to see Wanda's story, and Wanda, the first thing we see is that she used sitcoms because sitcoms made her feel safe. She would watch sitcoms with her parents, she would watch it in the prison, but that's kind of her safe place. And obviously the dad kind of mentions that there is this mischief going on and stuff like that, but nothing that doesn't get solved by the end of the episode. And that's probably why Wanda created this world, that no matter what happens, it'll probably get solved by the end of the episode anyway. So the next thing we see is that the bomb explodes, and there's a Stark bomb that obviously she considers to be a dud, but Agatha mentions that no, it's just that she was a witch and she held it off from actually going off in the first place. So she's implying that she's a witch from the beginning, and not necessarily a mutant, but a witch specifically. So that's going to be a little interesting moving forward. But the next thing we see is when she comes into contact with the Infinity Stone, her powers get expanded, and she gets to see kind of the OG suit that she was wearing. She gets to see herself in that suit coming towards her. So maybe it was kind of a premonition of the future, which is going to be pretty cool, because it means we get to see her in her OG suit, hopefully. So that would be pretty awesome. But the next thing we see is Vision was kind of her tie when Pietro died back to the world, and he kind of kept her off that ledge from like going way out. And it's kind of interesting because he did say a line that I thought was pretty powerful. He said, "What is grief if not love persevering?" Which I thought was a really cool line and really well written. But the next part that we see is that after Vision died, she kind of went off. Obviously, everything kind of fell apart for her, but she goes to recover his body after Endgame. So that means it's 5 years after Vision has died. And Sword has the body, and she kind of has this interaction with Director Hayward, which is a really weird interaction, because Director Hayward does say, "Oh, I can't just give him back to you for you to revive him because you have that kind of power." How did Director Hayward know she had that kind of power? That makes me a little curious, but that's for my theories. But she basically says her goodbye to Vision's body because she can't sense him anymore. But she starts going to Westview because Vision gave her this deed to a lot. And then once she opens it up, she sees that this was supposed to be their retirement plan. It's for them to grow old and together. And she's kind of broken because of that. And she explodes with magic. And once she explodes with magic, you get to see her recreate Vision. And she recreates him from nothing. Now his energy is yellow. She creates everything with red energy, so it's kind of weird that he was created with yellow energy. I think that might be something moving forward, but she creates him from nothing. And then we get to see modern day where Agatha kind of explains everything, and she says that she's using chaos magic, and then she labels her and says that makes you the Scarlet Witch. Now Agatha does mention that she thinks she's very dangerous and that she doesn't know about it herself and stuff to that level, but she's using all this super powerful magic to kind of just like create this little world where she can have fun with, but it can obviously be used for a lot more than that. Now the final thing that we see is White Vision. Now for those of you who have read West Coast Avengers, you kind of know who this White Vision is, so I'll get into those details when I get into my theories. But that was the episode. It was actually pretty cool. I really enjoyed most of it. There were some parts that kind of lagged here and there, but it was still really good. I really enjoyed it, and it was a very emotional episode. But let's get into our theories. The first thing I want to talk about is that I do feel like this final setup is kind of like something that Marvel's done many times before, which is I think it's going to be Agatha versus Wanda and Monica, and then it's going to be White Vision versus Vision. So this is something Marvel's done many, many times before. Similar power sets kind of fighting each other, witch versus witch, and then Vision versus Vision. Kind of makes sense. But I think my theory is Agatha is actually good. She might not have like acted good when the Coven was trying to take her out, but again, the Coven was trying to kill her. But she, in the comic books, is Wanda's mentor and her guide. So it kind of makes sense for her to want to guide Wanda if she just thinks she's kind of misled to acting the way she's acting. Because she said, you don't know how dangerous you are. So it's kind of, it's a different understanding of how she's acting with it. Now, she might think it like Professor X thought it in the House of M story, which is, you don't know how dangerous you are, we have to take her out. But it could also be, you don't know how dangerous you are, let me guide you. So that's one theory that I have. My next theory is that Agatha still wants to release Mephisto. I don't think Mephisto is going to be a big bad in the sense of a big showdown, but I think he's going to be the second level layer where he's kind of controlling things and having things set up for him, and she's going to release him at the end of the episode, and he's going to be out there. And I think he might be the big bad in maybe the Doctor Strange movie, and then Wanda is going to be the smaller bad, because I don't think they can waste him like that to just bring him in for him to lose in one episode. I think that would be kind of a big waste of it. But I think this episode, episode 9, is going to end with Wanda having to kill the White Vision, and then also Wanda having to recant her magic, which is take everything back, and that means no more Vision that she created, and no more children that she created. So I think this is going to really, really break her. I mean, she could do something drastic. In the comic books, she said no more mutants. In this, I do feel like she said no more children. I feel like that'd be a really cool way to do it. But I think she's going to be broken after this. And I feel like she's probably going to be one of the villains in the Doctor Strange movie. And again, maybe it's going to be Mephisto who's running things in the background, but Wanda's going to be the one fighting Doctor Strange in the foreground. And the final thing I want to say is that Wanda is mentioned to be a being of spontaneous creation, and then there was also that Nexus commercial in the past. So I do feel like Wanda is probably a Nexus being. For those of you who do not know what Nexus beings are so powerful they can control the timeline and such, and they're kind of one in every single multiverse, so they would have connections to the multiverse. So I feel like they're going to use Wanda being a Nexus being to introduce the multiverse in this final episode, to kind of just open it up. And I do feel like Pietro is probably Pietro from a different universe. That's not for sure, but I do feel like that's probably something they're doing, because he still has a part to play in this final episode. We did see him in the episode before this saying Snooper's gonna snoop, and I feel like he's gonna play some sort of part in the finale. I don't think he's just some random person walking down the street and Agatha started controlling him. I feel like he has a much bigger part to play. Now, my review for WandaVision, it's a lot more interesting now. I mean, the implications for me are a lot more fun than the show itself. Like, we don't get to see as much happening, but the implications of what's happening are very, very big, which is cool. I do feel like it's a missed opportunity, because I feel like the sitcom angle for me was a big fail, and I know there are a lot of people who feel the same way, and I know there are a lot of people who loved it, but I feel like it could have been executed way, way better than the way it was executed. I feel like you could have done so much more, like the House of M comic books. In the House of M, we got to see everybody's story in this idyllic world and stuff like that. It wasn't just watching, like, I don't know, the WandaVision TV show or something like that in the idyllic world that she created before she had to change everything back. But regardless, I do think it kind of sucks that she's supposed to be a witch and not a mutant, because that's, not only is it retconning her backstory, but it doesn't really explain how Pietro got his powers. I mean, as a witch, was she able to just give him powers? Because the stuff she's created in the Hex doesn't necessarily have the same power that it has outside of the Hex. But she is responsible for, she can do spontaneous creation, so maybe she gave Pietro his powers as well. I mean, that'd be interesting. And the final thing I want to talk about is, if this has a repetitive ending, that's going to be disappointing. Because this repetitive fight of like similar powers versus similar powers has been something Marvel's done 100 times over. They did it with Iron Man, they did it with the Incredible Hulk, they did it with Ant-Man, they did it with Doctor Strange, they did it with Black Panther, they did it with Captain Marvel. This similar fighting style of like not style but similar fighting powers fighting each other, like it's been done to death. So if they do Agatha versus Wanda, magical versus magical, and then they do Vision versus White Vision, which is obviously the exact same power set, I'd like to think, I'm not really down for it. Now, for those of you who do not understand White Vision, just let me go into that one more time. Because White Vision in the comic books is basically once Vision was taken apart and everything, his consciousness was gone. And once he was reconstituted, he no longer had the consciousness of Vision. So now that's kind of important because Vision in the comic books, the White Vision, did get his consciousness back when he fused with a Vision from a different universe. So I don't necessarily know if he's going to fuse with a Vision from a different universe. That would be really cool if Kevin Feige did that, because again, it would be Wanda opening up the multiverse, but she'd be taking another world Vision. So it'd be kind of interesting to see. But it could also be that he fuses with Wanda's kind of the Vision she created, because it might not have been the exact consciousness of Vision, but it could be what she remembers to be the consciousness of Vision. Because obviously he still has like good in him, the Vision that she's created. He's still trying to get everybody out and everything. So how much of it is her doing and how well she's done that versus kind of how much of Vision is still actually Vision or just her memory of Vision. Regardless, I do think the White Vision storyline is going to be very important. There's a lot of things to wrap up in this final episode. I do hope it's at least an hour long, hopefully even more than that, but there's a lot to kind of wrap up. There are a lot of holes left that we need to have sewn together, so it'll be interesting to see how they put together this final episode. Anyways, guys, did you watch this episode? Did you like this episode? Tell me what you think.
This is the Markham Knight, and I need you to like, comment, and subscribe.